Welcome to Harmony Heartful, a place where your soul can breathe, where every word is crafted to soften your heart, and every story is told to draw you closer to peace, to your Creator, and to yourself. Here, we explore the quiet signs of life, the beauty of Islam, the science of the soul, and the kind of truth that helps you gently drift into rest. Not just sleep, but surrender. Each video is a meditative journey, a calm voice in the noise, a reminder that you're not walking alone. If our stories bring you peace, if you feel more seen, more grounded, more connected, Sparkles, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video. It means more than you know, not just to grow this space, but to help someone else find rest too. So breathe in, let go, and let's begin tonight's story, here at Harmony Heartful, where hearts remember what they were always meant to feel.
There is a moment, quiet, invisible, when everything around you seems to pause. No loud signs, no thunder from the sky, just an unspoken stillness in your chest. You may call it hesitation, or doubt, or discomfort, but deep down you feel it like fog, thick and unmoving, pressing softly against your ribs. Your hands still function, your eyes still see, but something inside feels distant, disconnected. You're moving, yet you're not. This is the kind of silence that doesn't ask for noise, it asks for presence. It is not panic. It is not fear. It's something subtler, a quiet tension that tightens your breath just enough to make you notice. A part of you that no longer fits where it used to. And you wonder, is this a warning? Is this Allah speaking to my heart, not through words, but through weight? In the Quran, Allah describes the qalb, the heart, as a vessel of guidance. Not just a physical organ, but a knowing one. Have they not traveled through the earth and have hearts by which they reason?
Sura Allah, 10:46.
This verse does not mention the mind. It mentions the heart as a center of understanding. Your chest, your inner world, holds more intelligence than you realize. Modern science, too, is beginning to whisper what the Quran has always proclaimed: the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. In fact, the electromagnetic field of the heart, a silent pulse of energy, is 60 times stronger than that of the brain. Your heart is not just listening. It is speaking. And so when you feel that strange stillness, that heavy quiet ache, it may not be random. It may not be just anxiety. It might be your heart resisting a path that your soul was never meant to walk. You try to ignore it. You tell yourself you're overthinking. You distract yourself with tasks, screens, people.
But the silence remain.
It's not loud, but it's persistent. It stays with you through conversations, through prayers, even through laughter. And when you lay in bed at night, with no more noise to drown it, it expands. Stillness is not always peace. Sometimes, it's a signal. When Allah wants to awaken you, He does not always shout. Sometimes, He simply lets the joy disappear. He lets the energy drain. He allows the fit, the alignment, to unravel.
Not à punishment.
But as protection. Because He knows what your heart can bear. And He knows when it's time for you to turn away, even if you don't. There's a word for this knowing, fitra.
Your naturelle disposition.
The inner compass that knows what feels clean, and what feels contaminated. It was placed in you before your body was formed. It is what made the Prophet say, "Leave what causes you doubt for what does not cause you doubt." That hadith is not just advice, it's a map back to stillness of a different kind. The kind that heals, not the kind that warns. But how do you tell the difference between the stillness of peace and the stillness of warning? It begins with breath.
Take a moment now, right now, and breathe slowly. Inhale, hold, exhale.
Listen. Feel. When Allah speaks to your heart, your breath changes. Science confirms this too. Studies show that emotions directly affect your respiratory rhythm. Anxiety shortens your breath. Trust slows it. Peace is not only an emotion, it is a physiological experience. So is unease. In Arabic, the word for chest is ajr, and the Quran often refers to what is hidden in the ajr, chests. Not just the hearts, but the chests, the entire internal space that holds the emotional self. And we know what his self whispers to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein.
Caf 50 says.
Imagine that, Allah is closer to your stillness than even you are. He hears the sound your chest makes when your soul is confused. This stillness, then, becomes sacred.
Not something to push through.
Not something to brush aside, but something to kneel with. Sometimes it comes when you're about to make a decision, a job, a relationship, a move. Everything looks perfect on paper, and yet, your body won't let you celebrate it. You fake the smile. You say Alhamdulillah, but you feel numb, or tight, or heavy. That's not ungratefulness. That may be guidance. The Prophet would make a stiqra, the prayer for seeking Allah's guidance, even in matters that seem small. Not because he didn't trust himself, but because he trusted that Allah sees what he cannot. So what do you do when that stillness visits you? You pause. You breathe. You listen. And most of all you ask. Ask your Lord, the turner of hearts, to make clear what your heart cannot explain. Ask him to loosen the knot in your chest, if this path is right. Or to tighten it further, if you must walk away. It is in these moments of unease that your soul is softened for divine instruction. And sometimes, you will not receive an answer in words or dreams. You will receive it in peace, or the absence of it. You begin to notice how even the smallest actions feel forced. The joy that once bloomed in this relationship, in this job, in this environment, now feels like a distant memory. You may stay longer than you should, convincing yourself that things will change. That you are just tired. That this is part of the test. But deep down you know, this isn't the stillness of patience. This is the stillness of misalignment. Science might call it cognitive dissonance, when your actions and values no longer agree. Islam might call it hawa versus huda, following desire versus following guidance. Either way, your roux stirs.
You are not broken.
You are being called back.
And so you close your eyes.
You place your hand gently over your chest. And for the first time in days, maybe weeks, you allow yourself to ask, what if this heaviness is not a problem, but a sign? You are not meant to force the puzzle pieces together. You are meant to notice which ones never belonged in the first place. Stillness. Weight. Tightness. Perhaps these are the earliest signs that your soul is whispering, Ya Allah, show me the way out, if this is not the way in. And just as this stillness begins to feel familiar, as you learn to sit with it, another feeling arrives. It's heavier. It's louder. Not in sound, but in effort. The path ahead, which once felt like flow, now feels like struggle. And that's where you begin to notice something new. What if this weight isn't just inside you, but on the path itself? What if the road itself is resisting your steps? Sometimes, you push and the door doesn't budge. You think, maybe I didn't try hard enough. So you push again, harder this time. You stay up later. You give more of yourself. You pray longer. You fast more. You wait. But the path stays, heavy. It doesn't feel like the resistance of growth, it feels like friction from a world that no longer fits your soul. This heaviness is quiet but present. It's the ache in your spine when you wake up for something that doesn't ignite your spirit. It's the sigh before a phone call you used to look forward to. It's the invisible drag on your feet as you walk into rooms that used to feel like home. Your limbs are moving, but your heart lags behind. And so you wonder, is this how every test feels? Or is this something else? Islam teaches us that struggle is part of faith. Do people think they will be left alone after saying we believe without being tested?
Sura Al-Ankabut 29, 2.
But the Quran also teaches us that Allah is gentle. He is Latif. He is Rahim. He is the one who never burdens a soul with more than it can bear. So if the burden feels unbearable, perhaps you are carrying something that was never meant to be yours. This is where divine friction begins. You're not failing. You're being redirected. But we don't notice it at first, because our culture praises perseverance. Keep going. Hustle harder. Never quit. And in Islamic tradition too, we're taught the virtue of sabr, patience. The Prophet himself endured difficulty after difficulty, the loss of children, the betrayal of his people, the pressure of revelation. So, how do you know when to be patient, and when to walk away? The answer, perhaps, lies in your energy. In physics, there's a law called resistance, the measure of opposition that a system presents to the flow of energy. Imagine water flowing through a pipe. If the pipe is clogged or bent, the water slows down. The energy meets resistance. You can keep pouring more water, but it won't flow freely unless the path is clear. Your life works the same way. When Allah wants you to move forward, there is baraka, blessing. Things feel light. Effort brings results. One small act opens 10 doors. But when Allah wants you to turn back, the path thickens. Doors close. Delays multiply. You try, but nothing flows. This is not always punishment. This may be mercy. In a hadith Qudsi, Allah says, "When I love my servant, I become the hearing with which he hears, the sight with which he sees, the hand with which he strikes, and the foot with which he walks." Bukhari. When your steps become heavier with each attempt, perhaps your foot is no longer walking with his permission. But we're afraid to stop, aren't we? Because what if this is just a test? What if giving up means we failed? What if we're being impatient? So we exhaust ourselves. We work harder. We spiritualize the burden. And in that confusion, we forget that Allah doesn't just test through hardship, He guides through it. Let's return to the analogy of energy. In neuroscience, there's a concept called cognitive fatigue, mental exhaustion that arises when your efforts and outcomes no longer align. It's not laziness. It's your brain telling you, this isn't sustainable. Allah created you with fitra, yes, but also with limits. Your body has a rhythm. Your soul has a threshold. When the weight you carry feels consistently disproportionate to the purpose it serves, that is not always a sign to keep carrying it. It might be a sign to pause, to reflect, to ask, is this my path? Or am I forcing my way through a door that was never meant to open for me? Sometimes, you're not being asked to push harder. You're being asked to let go. Musa hit a wall like this, not a literal one, but a spiritual one. When Allah commanded him to go to Pharaoh, he felt the weight immediately. My chest tightens, my tongue is not fluent. So send for Harun.
Sura Taha 20, 2-5-30.
He didn't pretend to be strong. He didn't say, I've got this. He named the heaviness. He asked for help. And in doing so, he honored his own design. Sometimes, walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means knowing when you're no longer aligned with where Allah wants you. Even the Prophet walked away. From the city of Tarif, after being pelted with stones. From his birthplace, Makkah, when the pressure became too much. Hijra wasn't retreat. It was trust. And so you too may reach a point where the path you're on, the job, the relationship, the dream, begins to resist your presence. You're doing everything right, but nothing moves. Even your du'as begin to feel tired. That is not weakness. That is the soul asking for relief. The Prophet taught us to pray, O turner of the hearts, keep my heart firm upon your religion. But he also taught us the du'a of exit, O Allah, open for me the doors of your mercy when entering a place, and O Allah, I ask for your bounty when leaving. Both entry and exit are sacred. Both are forms of guidance. So pause now, just for a moment. Recall the last time the weight in your chest matched the weight on your path. Did you keep pushing? Or did you stop to ask, Ya Allah, is this you telling me to release? Even gravity lets go when something is no longer meant to stay. You were not created to carry endless pressure. You were created to respond to signs. And sometimes, the clearest sign is when everything begins to feel too hard, not just once, not just occasionally, but consistently. Like a current pushing against you.
And you release.
The more you force what is not written for you, the heavier it becomes. Let that be the moment you fall into sujud, not in defeat, but in surrender. Because when Allah wants ease for you, the earth itself will soften beneath your steps.
The air will shift. The people will align.
Even your breath will feel lighter. And if it doesn't? Then perhaps the soil you are trying to bloom in is not the garden He planted for you. You look back on the road behind, the effort, the hours, the tears, and you think, was it wasted? But nothing is wasted with Allah.
Every push took you. Every wect shaped you.
You are not going backward, you are turning toward clarity. And as you take one more breath, slower now, lighter, you begin to hear something else in the silence. A pattern. You notice the same kinds of heaviness, repeating.
Sam les sons. Différents disguises.
You find yourself here again. Different day. different setting. But somehow, the same discomfort. Maybe it's the familiar knot in your stomach before you answer that message. Or the way your voice softens, not in tenderness, but in fear, when you speak your truth. Perhaps it's the ache of being unseen, again. Of doing too much, again. Of waiting for change that never comes, again. There is a quiet repetition to your pain. It returns like a tide. And each time, you wonder, didn't I already go through this? Didn't I already learn this lesson? Why does it keep coming back? This isn't coincidence. This is curriculum. Repetition, in Islam, is not always a test of strength. Sometimes it's a whisper from Allah, gently guiding you to notice a pattern, not in the world, but in yourself. You see, your life has rhythms. And so does your mind. In neuroscience, there's a concept called neuroplasticity, the ability of your brain to rewire itself based on repeated experiences. Every time you feel something, say something, choose something, your brain strengthens a neural pathway. Like a trail carved through a forest, walk it enough, and it becomes a road. That means your reactions, your thoughts, even your pain, can become habitual. You keep responding to the same emotional triggers because your brain remembers how. And sometimes it takes repetition for you to finally realize, this loop isn't leading you anywhere. Allah doesn't leave his servant lost in circles. When a pattern returns, it's not random, it's divine. The Quran itself repeats many verses. So which of the favors of your Lord would you deny? Again and again in Surah Ar-Rahman. Not because we forget facts, but because truth is felt in rhythm. Your pain repeats for the same reason, not to hurt you, but to wake you. Wake you to the moments when you betray your own boundaries. Wake you to the relationships that echo old wounds. Wake you to the belief that you must endure anything to be loved. Over and over, until you see it clearly. Until you ask, why do I keep coming back here? The Prophet once said, a believer is not stung from the same hole twice. Buhari, Muslim. It's a gentle call. If the pain is familiar, so is the lesson. And the lesson may be this, walk away. But you hesitate, because your heart is soft. You want to give second chances. You want to try again. You want to believe that love will be enough to heal dysfunction, that hard work will fix misalignment. And sometimes it does. But not when the path is rooted in repetition without revelation. The most dangerous cycles are the ones we normalize. You might call it my personality, or my fate, or just how life is. But when something hurts you, consistently, quietly, repetitively, and you stay, it becomes a silent shape of self-betrayal. The Prophet taught tawbah, repentance, as a return. Not just from sin, but from anything that pulls you away from Allah and from your own soul. Repetition invites return. And yet, return doesn't mean collapse. It means awakening. Noticing. Choosing again, but this time, with awareness. You begin to see how the faces change, but the feeling is the same. The words differ, but the wound is familiar. The setting shifts, but the ending doesn't. This is the discomfort of repetition. It gnaws at you not because you're weak, but because your soul is trying to grow. In psychology, they call this the repetition compulsion, when we unconsciously seek out the same dynamics again and again, hoping for a different outcome. It's the child trying to fix the past through the present. It's the adult tolerating what feels familiar, even if it's painful. But Islam does not leave you trapped in patterns. It hands you the key of awareness. Through tafakkur, reflection. Through istighfar, returning. Through tawakkul, trust. And through farasa, insight, the intuitive wisdom the Prophet said the believer possesses. Beware the insight of the believer, for he sees with the light of Allah. Tirmidhi. You begin to notice. The cycle is not a curse. It's a compass. And once you see the cycle, truly see it, you can break it. Not with anger. Not with blame. But with clarity. You name the pattern. You release the illusion that this time will be different. You say, Ya Allah, I see what you are showing me. And I am ready to respond. That response may look like saying no. Like not picking up the phone. Like pausing before you explain yourself, again. Like walking away with love, but also with self-respect. It will feel unfamiliar at first. Your brain may even resist. It wants the comfort of what it knows. But your soul knows better. Your soul was never meant to be bound by the chains of familiar pain. It was created to rise, and rising often begins by stepping out of the circle. This is not easy. It may feel lonely, like standing outside of a loop that others are still spinning inside. You may doubt yourself. But even in that doubt, there will be a softness, a gentleness from Allah, reminding you. You are not walking away to escape. You are walking away to heal. You are walking away because the lesson is complete. And then, as the dust settles, as the echoes of old patterns quiet, a new silence begins. Not the stillness of confusion. Not the heaviness of resistance. But a softer quiet. A calm emptiness. And you start to realize. Something is missing. It doesn't feel the same anymore. You still show up. You still try. But the spark is gone. The sweetness that once colored your prayers, your projects, your relationships, has faded into a quiet gray. And it's not burnout. It's something softer. Something sacred. It's the absence of baraka. Baraka, that invisible blessing that makes a little feel like enough. That stretches time, deepens presence, fills the air with meaning. When baraka is there, a 5-minute dua feels like eternity. A small act brings immense peace. A brief conversation leaves your heart nourished. And when it's gone, everything feels like too much, and not enough. You speak, but nothing lands. You work, but nothing flows. You pray, but the light doesn't stay. Even the things you once loved begin to feel dry, like a well that's run its course. This too may be a sign that the season has changed. That Allah, in His gentle way, is lifting the energy from this place, because your soul is being called somewhere new. It's a feeling many prophets knew. Ibrahim loved his homeland. Yet he walked away. Musa found a place of rest in Madian, but he knew when to leave. Even the Prophet Muhammad, born in the heart of Mecca, was asked to migrate when the baraka of safety and growth had left the soil. Hijra, migration, is not just a historical act. It's a spiritual one. It happens in the body too. Science tells us that our rhythms, our energy, sleep, hormones, attention, all follow circadian cycles. Like tides, they rise and fall with time. Nothing stays at peak. No state is permanent. Just like the earth rotates to let go of light and embrace night, you too are created to move through phases. And so when baraka begins to vanish, not all at once, but gently, you may feel disoriented. You wonder, did I do something wrong? Did I sin? Did I stop being grateful? Maybe. Or maybe, the blessing left because the chapter is ending. Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise. He doesn't remove without purpose. He doesn't empty without reason. Sometimes, He withdraws baraka from a space not to punish you, but to prepare you. When you no longer feel connected to what once nourished you, it may be that your growth has outgrown the soil. Baraka, then, becomes a compass. You begin to observe. You're doing the same job, but it drains you now. You're praying in the same spot, but your focus slips through. You're with the same person, but silence feels heavier than words. The fruit has stopped growing, though the tree is still there. You water. You wait. Nothing changes. This is not failure. This is not a curse. This is your ruh, your soul, being called to shift. The Prophet taught us to ask for baraka in everything, in time, in wealth, in knowledge, in people. Because without it, nothing lasts. And with it, even a sip of water becomes a river of peace. So when you feel its absence, listen. Baraka doesn't just leave. It transitions. It moves from one place to another, like a divine wind, guiding you to follow. But that requires trust. To leave what is known. To walk away from the familiar. To admit softly, this place no longer grows me. There's a hadith where the Prophet said, leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Doubt is not just mental. It's felt in the body. So is baraka.
When baraka leave, it take your is with it.
Your time feels tight. Your energy feels rushed. Your inner space feels cluttered. Even when everything looks the same on the outside, the inner current shifts.
And deep inside, you feel it. The sacred quiet. The absence of sweetness. The thinning of light.
But what's most important is this. Baraka doesn't disappear to punish you. It disappears to realign you. Like a flock of birds changing direction in midair, you too are being nudged by unseen forces, divine winds whispering it's time. Time to let go. Time to turn the page. Time to trust that what once held light has now served its purpose. This letting go is not rejection. It's release. And in that release, something new becomes possible. Something your soul hasn't touched yet, because you were still clinging to what once was blessed. Even blessings have seasons. So take a deep breath. Notice the emptiness. And say Alhamdulillah. Not in disappointment, but in gratitude for what was, and for what may now begin. Because as one form of baraka fades, another prepares to arrive. Sometimes, in the realm of dreams, you close your eyes, finally still. The world outside fades. The clock stops ticking. And something within you begins to stir. You drift into the quiet place, the sacred space between this world and the unseen, and suddenly, you're somewhere else. Not entirely here, not entirely gone. A hallway of symbols. A landscape of feelings. A place where your soul remembers what your waking self forgets. You are dreaming. And this time, it feels different. Maybe it's the face of someone you've been trying to forget. Or the feeling of running, but never arriving. Perhaps it's a doorway, or a broken room, or a light that flickers and fades. Whatever it is, it lingers. You wake up slowly, the dream still pulsing behind your eyes like a soft echo. And for reasons you can't explain, it stays with you long after the morning prayer. You wonder, what was that? In Islam, dreams are not dismissed as mere illusions. They are part of the unseen, a glimpse into the realm that lives just beyond your skin. The Prophet said, the truest dreams are seen during the last third of the night. Bukhari. In that deepest sleep, when your body rests, and your ego sleeps, your ruh rises. And when Allah wills, He places a message in that rising. Not always in words. Sometimes in symbols. Sometimes in a feeling that wraps around your soul like fog. The scholars say there are 3 types of dreams. One from Allah, a vision, a sign, a reminder. One from Shaitan, a whisper to disturb you. And one from your own self, thoughts or emotions you carried into your sleep. But the dreams we speak of now, the ones that linger, often feel like a conversation with your soul. Not in noise, but in subtle knowing. Science, too, has begun to notice what the Quran knew all along. Dreams are not random. Your brain, during REM sleep, becomes a storyteller. It processes memory, emotion, fear, and intuition. The amygdala, the part of the brain that processes emotional intensity, is highly active while dreaming. In other words, your soul speaks in metaphors, and your brain paints the canvas. So when you dream of doors closing, of falling through darkness, of speaking but not being heard, it may not be prophecy. But it may be a mirror. A mirror of what your soul is trying to say. You feel trapped in the dream because you feel trapped in life. You keep returning to the same place in your sleep because you keep returning to the same mistake while awake. You see someone walk away, and though your heart hurts, a part of you feels relief, because your ruh already knows what your mind refuses to accept. And yet, not every dream holds weight. The Prophet taught us not to obsess over nightmares. They are often whispers, tricks, distractions. He said, if one of you sees a dream that he dislikes, let him spit lightly to his left and seek refuge in Allah from Shaitan, and do not speak of it to anyone. Muslim. But when a dream is vivid, repeated, or strikes your heart with a strange clarity, pay attention. It may be a sign that something in your life is misaligned. You once dreamt of light, and now you only dream of storms. You once dreamt of growth, and now of broken gardens. These images are not always literal, but they are not meaningless. Sometimes, Allah shows you your unrest in the only space quiet enough to receive it, your sleep. And you feel it when you wake. Not in fear, but in recognition. The way your heart beats differently after a dream. The way you look at your life and think, I know something has shifted. Even if I can't name it yet. This too is mercy. Allah tells us in Surah Az-Zumar. Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes, during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death and releases the others for a specified term. 39:42. Your ruh leaves. It returns. It sees. And sometimes, it carries a message back. But not every message is clear. That's why dreams in Islam are not to be decoded by impulse or superstition. They are to be received gently, reflected upon, not obsessed over. Ask yourself, what was I feeling in the dream? Where was I going, or refusing to go? What did I sense, even without speech? The Prophet Yusuf was gifted with dream interpretation. But his own dream, of stars bowing, took decades to unfold. Dreams are signs, not scripts. They don't always explain. They nudge. And when a dream nudges you toward discomfort, toward truth, toward letting go, do not run. Sit with it. Because your soul sees what your eyes cannot. You may dream of being surrounded by noise, and yet hearing nothing. You may dream of carrying something heavy, and never arriving. You may dream of an open road, but your legs won't move. These aren't curses. These are metaphors. They speak of your present. They whisper of your future. And often, they invite you to notice, what are you still holding on to, even in your sleep? Sometimes, Allah removes the veil of your waking denial by opening the window of your sleep. And once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. You wake up quieter, more thoughtful, more certain that a decision must be made. That something is ending, or must be ended, for peace to return. But making that decision feels impossible. You've asked for signs. You've seen them in silence. You've felt them in wait. You've watched them repeat. You've noticed the baraka fade. And now, even your dreams are speaking. So what holds you back? Maybe, it's the fear of being wrong. The fear of walking away, and regretting it. Of closing the door, and finding yourself alone. But the heart knows when a message is divine. And sometimes, that knowing comes gently in your sleep, when your soul is free from the noise. And you wake with a sentence in your chest. It's time to let go. But before you can move forward, you wait. You hesitate. You delay. And even that delay begins to feel like a sign.